Today I welcome you to the fifth documentary of the 95 Mountain Brigade's advance towards Dhaka, breaking the Pakistani army defenses in the border towns of Kamalpur, then closing in onto Bakshiganj, destroying an entire battalion at Jamalpur and heading on towards Tangail, liberating all these towns on the way. The 95 Mountain Brigade was commanded by Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler, and this brigade had three battalions. The 1st Maratha Light Infantry, which was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Kuldeep Singh Brar, the 13th Rajputana Rifles, which was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Sangwan, and the 13th Guards, which was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel M.S. Sodhi. The 95 Mountain Brigade was a part of the 101 Communication Zone, and the 95 Mountain Brigade was the main fighting force of this division. This division had the 167 Infantry Brigade and also the FJ Sector Brigade. The 167 Infantry Brigade was under the command of Brigadier Irani, and the FJ Sector Brigade was under the command of Brigadier Sant Singh. The 101 Communication Zone was headed by Major General Gurbaksh Singh Gill following the liberation of Kamalpur. While heading towards Bakshiganj with Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler, Major General Gurbaksh Singh Gill encountered an anti-tank mine blast for which he lost the soles of his feet. To replace him arrived Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra, and he took over the operations of the 101 Communication Zone. Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra was in the liberation of Jamalpur when the entire Pakistani 31 Baluch had surrendered to the 95 Mountain Brigade. Now, where does this 31 Baluch come from? This battalion was actually a part of the 93 Infantry Brigade of the Pakistani Army. The 93 Infantry Brigade of the Pakistani Army was commanded by Brigadier Qadir, and this brigade was actually stationed at Maimansingh. This brigade had two battalions, the 33rd Punjab and the 31 Baluch. 33rd Punjab was based at Maimansingh, and the 31 Baluch was actually present in the city of Jamalpur. After the liberation of Sherpur, Jamalpur, and following the beating up of the 33rd Punjab at Maimansingh, the entire 93 Infantry Brigade was on the run, heading towards Tangail to escape towards Dhaka. Now, this brigade was completely crushed by the 95 Mountain Brigade and the 2 Parachute Battalion that had been para-dropped near the Pungle Bridge on the 11th of December 1971. With an entire brigade almost crushed, with its survivors heading towards Dhaka, Tangail was the next town to be liberated. Now, let's recap on the map of what happened. So I hope you can understand. The 33 Punjab was based at Maimansingh from the Pakistani 93 Infantry Brigade. The 31 Baluch was based at Jamalpur. As you can see, the border outpost of Kamalpur is here, Bakshiganj is here, and this is Sherpur. First, the 95 Mountain Brigade destroys the Kamalpur border outpost. The Pakistanis sit here at Bakshiganj. Eventually, the 95 Mountain Brigade encircles and destroys the Bakshiganj garrison. The Pakistanis retreat towards Jamalpur. The red mark always signs the enemy. So then they cross the Brahmaputra river. This river, the 95 Mountain Brigade encircles Jamalpur and destroys the 31 Baluch. The enemy has no way to escape. The 33rd Punjab was being beaten up by the FG Sector Brigade, by Brigadier Sant Singh, and then they escape towards Tangail. The survivors of this battalion and the surviving elements of the 31 Baluch with Brigadier Qadir tries to escape towards Tangail. They take this route, and the 2 Parachute Battalion of the Indian Army drops at Pungle Bridge. They are caught here in a crossfire, and eventually the 93 Brigade is taken out of action. And finally, whatever has reached Tangail from the 33 Punjab, the elements of the 33 Punjab sitting at Tangail tries to provide some resistance to the 2 Para. They were also crushed. Eventually, they also leave Tangail, fleeing towards Dhaka. The entire 93 Brigade has been reduced to scraps, with Brigadier Qadir being captured by the Indian Army. Tangail is also liberated. Now, the last stop towards Dhaka is on the Tangail-Tura road, clearing out the Pakistanis in this area. Now let's see what Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler does on his advance towards Dhaka. As of now, with Tangail being liberated, the 1st Maratha Light Infantry was ordered to rest and recuperate in Tangail, while the 6th Sikh Light Infantry was brought from Jamalpur to Tangail. The 2 Para was also present at Tangail, but the 6th Sikh Light Infantry, which was given to the 95 Mountain Brigade from the 167 Infantry Brigade, was now tasked to lead the advance of the 95 Mountain Brigade towards Dhaka. They took the Tangail-Turg road and started their advance from the morning of the 13th of December. Now, on the morning of the 14th of December, this battalion was stuck close to Kashimpur, where from a heavily fortified building, Pakistani soldiers were laying down heavy machine gun fire on the troops of the 6th Sikh Light Infantry, pinning them down. Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler got to know about this and he moved up to meet up with the battalion. He met up with the battery commander and the company commander and the Subedar major who were there inside a dugout, and he started talking to them about what to do about this situation. He was hearing the gunshots in the distance and watching his troops being pinned down, but suddenly he saw the Subedar major slip out from the dugout, and within minutes, with the war cry of the 6th Sikh Light Infantry, a platoon of troops entered the building and started hand-to-hand fighting with the Pakistanis inside that building. Within minutes, the building was cleared out. The Pakistanis had stopped their heavy machine gun firing and had tried to flee, but they were all captured. This attack was led by Subedar Ram Singh and Lieutenant B.K. Chopra. And in this attack, unfortunately, Subedar Ram Singh was killed in action alongside some troops. The Subedar major returned back to Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler and he apologized, saying that he had never seen a brigadier being so close to a field of action. He said that it would have been a shame if he didn't launch the attack, though lives were lost. 6 Pakistani soldiers were found dead inside that building, with more troops being captured and with the unfortunate loss of some troops from the 6th Sikh Light Infantry and Subedar Ram Singh. But the gallant battalion kept up with their advance. They cleared up the area near Kaliakar, closing in onto Dhaka. Eventually, the 2 para had also joined up alongside the 30 guards and Mukti Bahini forces under the command of Qadir Siddiqui. Brigadier Kler was amongst the troops leading his men. So after the liberation of Tangail, the survivors of the 33rd Punjab tried to escape on their way, establishing defenses with the 6th Sikh ally leading the advance, crushing through their defenses. They break the Pakistani defenses at Kashimpur, keeping up with their advance. By the midday of the 14th of December, Brigadier Kler closed up towards a road sign in Bengali that showed the way towards Dhaka. They had also made up to the Turag River, the last obstacle before Dhaka, but the Pakistanis on their retreat towards Dhaka had blown up the bridge on the Turag River. This was bad news for the brigade. Hence, Brigadier Kler and General Nagra started making up their own plans for the advance. The 1st Maratha Light Infantry was eventually brought to Kashimpur from Tangail, and the Mukti Bahini fighters under Qadir Siddiqui started guiding the Indian troops. Qadir Siddiqui informed that a newly constructed metal road leading towards Dhaka from the Savhar, Mirpur area was needed to be taken, and also additional troops were needed to be brought from the 101 communication zone. Also, here for the first time, the 95 Mountain Brigade encountered Pakistani M24 Shafi tanks guarding the area near the Turag River. Unfortunately, the brigade had no answer to these tanks. They were bogged down. What could be done now? By the 14th of December, the 1st Maratha Light Infantry from the 95 Mountain Brigade also joins up, and they eventually move up to the Turag River where they face Pakistani tanks but have no answer to them. They halt their advance. Also, the 6th Sikh Light Infantry moves up and halts their advance. Eventually, the 1st Maratha Light Infantry from the 95 Mountain Brigade was tasked to cross the river. On a man-packed basis, they used country boats again with their limited weapons and ammunition, and they made it across the river like they did in the Battle of Jamalpur. But after this advance, Brigadier Sant Singh, commander of the FJ Sector Brigade, had also arrived with his troops to make the advance to Dhaka from the Kaliakar Savhar Mirpur road. The FJ Sector Brigade, under the command of Brigadier Sant Singh, is given the 13 guards and the 2 para. They also keep up with their advance, clearing the areas of Kaliakar and liberating Savhar. So, this much area up to the Turag River. Sorry, I'm pretty bad at drawing, but I'm trying my best. This much area up to the Turag River is under the control of the Indian Army. The Mukti Bahini forces under Qadir Siddiqui also comes up, heads up towards Kashimpur. The Pakistanis had now fled across the Turag River. They get beaten up here as well. The Mukti Bahini forces under Qadir Siddiqui joins up and helps the 95 Mountain Brigade, clearing up the advance, heading up to the Turag River as well. General Nagra brings the 167 Infantry Brigade and establishes a roadblock on Tongi here. So, this much area is encircled. But Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler was not feeling right with this move. It was because he felt that he had led the most of the fighting at the advance of the 101 communication zone, and he was to move up to Dhaka before any of the other fighting forces of the 101 communication zone did. But General Nagra met up with him and said that the 95 Mountain Brigade was exhausted. The brigade had traveled about 200 miles from the Meghalaya border and closing in onto Dhaka, and it was time for the other fighting forces of the division to move forward with the rest of the fighting. By the 15th of December 1971, the 2 para and the 13 guards cleared up all the Pakistani resistance they had near Sabhar, close to Dhaka. And by the early morning of the 16th of December, they closed in onto Mirpur Bridge. Just one more step to Dhaka. On the early morning of the 16th of December, Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra met the CO of the 1st Maratha Light Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel Bulbul Brar, across the Turag River and the 167 Infantry Brigade on the Tungi-Dhaka road. On that very morning itself, Brigadier Kler and the 95 Mountain Brigade picked up intercepts from the Pakistani High Command, General Niazi, sitting in Dhaka, asking his forward field commanders for a ceasefire on the Indian troops. Hearing of this, he informed this incident to General Nagra, and finally, Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra decided to make a move that would be recorded forever in history. Not many people know this, but Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra had actually worked as the Indian military attaché in Pakistan. He knew General Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi, the commander of the Pakistani Eastern Army Command in Dhaka, from a very long time. Hence, Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra decided to send General Niazi a letter of surrender. He doesn't write much. He just mentions this: "My dear Abdullah, here I am. Surrender to me and I will look after you." That's it. Now, how to send this message to the headquarters of the Pakistani army? With the 2 para being close to Mirpur, some officers from the 2 para, including soldiers, officers like Captain Nirbhay Sharma, later Lieutenant General, were ordered to take this note to the headquarters of the Pakistani army. They grabbed a jeep, mounted a white flag, and crossed the Mirpur Bridge to enter Dhaka. Nobody knows what might happen to them, but these gallant officers decided to do it anyway. They were the Maroon Creed. Alright? After about 45 minutes, they find the jeep returning back, the Pakistani army staff car behind them. Meanwhile, Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler and Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra decided to fly up close to the Mirpur Bridge area. Now they spotted the jeep returning back with the white flag, with all the officers intact, being followed by a Pakistani staff car. From that staff car comes out Major General Jamshed, the GOC of the Pakistani 36th Infantry Division. He is greeted by Brigadier Kler and General Nagra, of course, and they decided to head into Dhaka. Major General Jamshed was not only the commander of the 36th Infantry Division, was also the Director General of the IPCAF, the East Pakistani Civil Armed Force. In this car, the officers of the 2 para, Brigadier Hardev Singh Kler, Brigadier Sant Singh, and Major General Gandharv Singh Nagra head into Dhaka. At first, they arrive at the headquarters of Major General Jamshed, and after a brief pause, they head towards the headquarters of the Pakistani Army Eastern Command. Here, they meet a shaken-up General Niazi. After an exchange of pleasantries, General Niazi blamed Rawalpindi for his fall. It was clear that the Pakistani general wanted to surrender. And if you haven't liked this video, I don't know what you're up to. You have to know what India did in breaking Pakistan in two. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel yet, do this. Press that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload a new video. And thank you so much for listening.